Yeah, hello everyone. So today I will be explaining integration of an absolute function. So how do you solve problem on an absolute function? So the first thing that should come to your mind is you equate the function to 0. So here we have absolute value of s. So s will be equal to 0. So when s equals 0, it shows that at point 0, that is where the limit will change. Now, for an absolute value of s, we must have s when s, we must have minus s when s is less than 0. And we have s when s is greater or equal to 0. You know, when we are talking about absolute value, you remember in high school, when you have 5x minus 2, absolute value of this function to be equal to 5. This will be 5x minus 2 equals to minus 5, or 5x minus 2 equals to 5. So for an absolute value, we are going to have a situation whereby one will be less than 0, while the other will be greater than 0. Now, when x is minus s, we have an integral from minus 3, the lower limit, to 0 of minus s, all the s, plus integral from 0 to 2 when we have s as positive, the s. So the next thing is to integrate the value we have here. So we are going to have minus x2 divided by 2 with the limit from minus 3 to 0. Plus, if we integrate this as well, you have x squared divided by 2 from what? From 0 to 2. So when you make your substitution, you know, if you put 0 in all this, you have 0. So it will be 0 minus, if you put minus 3 here, we have minus 3 squared divided by 2. So if you do that, you have 0 minus, this will be 9, and you still have your minus 9 divided by 2. When you multiply this, you have 9 divided by 2. So the whole of this will give us 9 divided by 2. Plus, when you make your substitution here, put 2 here, you have 4 divided by 2. And when you put 0, everything will be 0. So the whole of this will give us 4 divided by 2, which is 2. We have this. So from your primary level, we know 9 divided by 2 plus 2 will give us 13 all over 2. So that's our final answer. Thank you. So let's have another example on the integral of an absolute function. So this is similar to the first one that I did. When we have s minus 1, it means this function s minus 1 will be equal to 0. So our s will be equal to 1. So when s equals to 1, this is the point that the limit will change, or the sign will change. We can say the limit will be changed, or the sign will change. So since we are talking about 1, it implies that when s is less than 1, x will be less than 1, because we must have the negative part and the positive part. So when s is less than 1, it implies that our s minus 1 is less than 0. At this point, when s minus 1 is less than 0, it implies that the absolute value of x minus 1 here will be negative. So that will be equal to minus x minus 1. At this point, when it is less than 0, we have a negative sign. So this can also be rewritten as 1 minus s. So when it is less than 0 here, x minus 1 is less than 0, we have 1 minus s as negative. Now, when s is greater or equal to 1, we have x minus 1 to be greater or equal to 0. At this point, we have the absolute value of x minus 1 to be positive, where we have x minus 1. Then we write the integral. So the integral, instead of from minus 2 to 3, this will now be from minus 2 to 1. We have the first one, which is the negative. We have 1 minus s ds. Plus, this will now be from 1 to 3, where we have the positive form, which is s minus 1 all ds. So if we integrate this, don't forget when you are integrating something of this form, when you are integrating 1 minus s, we have the integral of 1 ds minus the integral of s ds. So that's what we are going to have. So if we integrate this, we have s minus x squared divided by 2 from the limit minus 2 to 1. Plus, if we integrate this, you have x squared divided by 2 minus x, all from 1 to 3. So when we have that, after making our substitution, if you substitute 1 here and you substitute minus 2, we have 9 divided by 2. If you substitute 3 here and you substitute 1 here, you have plus 2. At the end of the day, we have 13 all over 2 as our final answer. Thank you. So this is another example on integration of an absolute function. As I said in example 1 and in example 2, here we equate this to be equal to 0. So we have s minus s cubed to be equal to 0. Then s is common to both here. We have s 1 minus s squared equal to 0. So from here, our s equals 0, or our s equals 1 minus x squared. Sorry, I said s equals 0, or 1 minus x squared equals 0. So s equals 0, or my x squared equals 1. S will be equal to plus or minus 1. So at the end of the day, after solving this, our s equals 0, minus 1, and 1. So that is the value of our s. At this point, this is the point where the sign or the limit will change. Now, the next step now is to determine the one that will be negative and the one that will be positive. Now, if you look at minus 4 to 4, if you look at the limit from minus 4 to 4, now let's relate this. We are going to have from minus 4, minus 1, we are going to have this point from minus 4 to minus 1. At the same time, we are going to have from minus 1 to 0. So these are the points that we are going to have. At the same time, we are going to have from 0 to 1. Then we have from 1 to 4. Am I making sense? Now, because this is the turning point, this is the point where the sign will change. 0, minus 1, and 1. And we have from minus 4 to 4. Now, so the sign will change at this point, where we have either from minus 4 to minus 1, either from minus 1 to 0, or from 0 to 1, or from 1 to 4. Now, these are the points we are going to have as our new limit. But how are we going to determine the function that will be negative and the one that will be positive? Now, let's start from this. From minus 4 comma to minus 1. At this point, we have this to be equal to, we are going to substitute our value from, let's pick minus 4 and minus 2. We have in a number line, when you have minus 1 up to minus 4, we have minus 3, we have minus 2. So between minus 4 and minus 1, we can pick any point from here. Let's pick minus 2. Let's substitute minus 2 in the function. We have s minus x cubed. So let's substitute minus 2. So we are picking a point, minus 2. If you substitute minus 2 here, we have minus 2 minus 2 all cubed. where we have minus 2 minus, if you do this, we have minus 8. At the end of the day, we have minus 2 plus 8. That will be equal to 6. So we got positive. At this point, at the point of minus 4 minus 1, we got positive, which is plus 6. So this is positive. At this point, we have positive. Now let's check minus 1 comma 0. From minus 1 comma 0, we can pick a number in between. Like in the number line, we have 0, we have minus 1. Between minus 1 and 0, we can just pick minus 0.5. So let's pick minus 0.5 and make our substitution. So for minus 1 comma 0, we have s minus x cubed, right? So minus 0.5 minus 0.5 minus 0.5 all cube. So we know our minus 0.5 is half. Let me write it in fraction. Minus half minus 1 all over 2 cube. That will give us minus 1 all over 8, which is half plus 1 over 8. Right? So 4 minus 4 plus, that will be 1. So we have minus 3 all over 8, which is negative. So we got minus 1 to 0 as a negative value. So this is negative. So minus 1 comma 0 is negative. Now let's try the other one. Let's try 0 comma 1. For 0 comma 1, we can pick 0.5 because this is 0 and 1. In our number line, when you have 0, you have 1. So in between 0 and 1, positive 1, we have positive half. So we can pick our half and make our substitution in x minus s cubed. So we have half minus half cube. So we have half minus 1 all over 8. Then when you do your normal LCM, you have 4 minus what? 1. 8, 2 goes here, 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 8 goes here, 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So we have 3 all over 8, which is positive. So we got positive for that as well. For this is positive. Now let's check the last one, which is 1 comma 4. 1 comma 4 in x minus x cubed. Let's pick between 1 and 4, we can pick 2. So we have 2 minus, we have 2 cubed. And 2 cubed is what? 8. That will give us minus 6. So the last one, which is 1 comma 4, is negative. Negative. So we have 1 comma 4 to be equal to negative. So we have 2 negative and 2 positive. Now the implication of this negative sign is to change the function, which implies that the function given to us is x minus x cubed, right? Now, anyone that is negative, we imply that we have x minus x cubed minus, the minus will be in the front. So when you expand, you have minus s plus x cubed. So at the end of the day, for negative, we are going to obtain s cubed minus s. So that is the reason why we need to determine the one that is negative and the one that is positive. Now let's use our integral sign. For the first one, the integral from minus 4 to 1. From minus 4 to minus 1, which is what? Positive. We are going to write the exact value, which is x minus s cubed, all the s. Plus the second one, which is integral from minus 1 to 0. Minus 1 to 0 is negative. So we are going to have s cubed minus s. X cubed minus s. Plus the third one, which is the limit of what? The limit of 0 to 1. 0 to 1 is positive. So we write the function itself x minus s cubed, all the s. And the last one, which is integral from 1 to 4, which is negative, will give us x cubed minus s. all the s. Now the next step is to integrate. When you integrate s, you know we have x raised to power 2 divided by 2 minus x raised to power 4 divided by 4. For the first one here, where we have from minus 4 to minus 1. Plus, when you do this, you have x raised to power 4 divided by 4 minus x raised to power 2 divided by 2. The limit is from minus 1 to 0. Plus the integral, if you integrate this, we have x squared divided by 2 minus s raised to power 4 divided by 4 from 0 to 1, plus the same thing as this, x raised to power 4 divided by 4 minus x raised to power 2 divided by 2 from 1 to 4. Now the next step is to substitute our value. Let's substitute our value here. Now, if you substitute minus 1 in all of this equation, you substitute minus 4 from all of this equation. I will write my value in a decimal point. I don't want to waste time on making substitution. Is what you can easily do. If you make substitution on this, we have our 56.25. If you put minus 1 here, any answer that you got will be subtracted from what you put 4 in each of these. So we have this. If you put 0 here, for instance, you have 0 everywhere here. Minus, if you put 1 here, we are going to have, 0.25 or half. 0.25 plus, if you do same thing here, we have 0.25. If you put all these 4 here and you put 1 here, you have the same thing, 56.25. At the end of the day, our answer would be 113. That should be our final answer. Thank you.